Similar to what we saw in China, India has gone through a vast restructuring of its economy over the last few decades. And like China, this transformation has brought enormous changes to the country. Also, like China, the expansion of the secondary sector in India has been predicated on providing inexpensive labor. But this growth has been aided by laws that safeguard things like copyrights, but at the same time basically ignore environmental concerns. And I cannot overemphasize this. The long history of usage of the English language, the world's language, has greatly benefited India. The growth in the secondary sector has focused on light manufacturing and food processing. Metals and chemicals are also important components in their industrial sector, along with many other products. Amongst the light manufacturing are things like clothing and textiles. Textiles are items related to cloth. Do you look at the tags on your clothes? I always do. And I have noticed the shifting manufacturing centers for clothing over the last few decades, which includes to India in particular and South Asia in general. Here's a brief history of how places like India came to be major textile producers. After World War II, do you know when that was? 1945. Westernized countries and Japan were the only real manufacturing centers on Earth. Then there began to be a shift toward other countries that originally provided inexpensive labor. At first it was places like South Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Singapore. Those guys were known as the Four Tigers or the Four Asian Tigers or other names like that. Then other countries began to jump in and provide even cheaper labor, which allowed China, India, Vietnam, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and several countries in Latin America to begin to transition toward manufacturing. However, on the front end, none of these countries had highly educated populations. And just like the Industrial Revolution that began in England in the 1750s, the first thing a country will generally turn toward will be products that don't require a PhD to manufacture. Things like clothing, because it's a repetitious action of sewing the same sleeve onto the same type of shirt over and over. But this puts money into the hands of the people who would not otherwise have it. Then they can use that to get their kids into better schools, and upward mobility and the ability to buy luxury items begins, which this may mean a refrigerator or a TV. As you can see, they also produce consumer plastics like Tupperware, types of things like that, technology-related things like computers and phones. Do you remember some of the agricultural products I mentioned? Food processing is the job of making them into usable items. For example, taking wheat, the grains of wheat, grinding it up, making it into flour, and then putting that into bags to be sold. All of that is secondary sector manufacturing job employment, even though it originated as a farm product. As much as anything, these types of jobs that lift largely uneducated or mildly, slightly educated people up into regular, normal-paying jobs are the things that allow a country to begin to create a middle class with expendable income. Do you recall what I told you about Mexico and the informal economy? That like half the people in Mexico work in the informal economy? India is similar to that, but they are transitioning to a place that allows socioeconomic mobility, and the secondary sector is a critical component of that mobility. And here's the proof. This is Delhi, or New Delhi, the capital of India. It's a vast, sprawling urban center that sits on a broad plain, something like Los Angeles, only in a lot of ways even sprawling in a greater way, more land. On the outskirts of the city, in what we would probably call the suburbs, the growth of a middle class is evident. These are apartments for that growing middle class in the Gurgaon suburb. These types of structures are being constructed throughout the major urban centers throughout India. And that construction, which also employs overwhelmingly people with very little education, also drives the growth of a middle class because those people are able to make money. Look at this beautiful shopping mall in the same area. I mean, would you think you were in India when you saw that? I was there at Christmas, which explains the decorations. Yes, they celebrate Christmas. Remember, it's a densely packed religious landscape. The stores are beautiful there. All the typical goods are there, maybe with a South Asian twist, but everything you can get, they can get. However, because of terrorist attacks in the country, to enter any facility like that, you have to go through airport-style security checks, even pat-downs sometimes. And through that process, it appears as though they exclude some people from entering the malls and the shopping centers. And I don't mean terrorists. Generally, they try to exclude poor people.